Hello, hi, welcome to, this. I'm Emily, as you may or may not know if you're clicking on this. I don't know why you're clicking on this if you don't know who I am, but hello, hi, welcome. This is an exciting video because, I don't know if y'all noticed recently, but we passed, 10,000 subscribers, which is, buck wild and amazing and cool, and I can't believe that it happened, and especially that it happened at the rate that it did. So I thought I'd do something to kind of celebrate the occasion and thank you all, and I figured a Q&A would be a good way to do that, just because I think Q&As are pretty fun. I know I like listening to creators. I like to do Q&As, and hopefully you like that as well. And so I went ahead and I asked some questions, and I got a lot of them. Well, I asked 4 questions, and I got a lot of them. So I figured, let's just take some time and kind of sit through and talk about things very casually, unscripted, lightly edited. Which apologies. I know a lot of y'all like the editing on my videos, and this is not going to be a tightly edited one. It's basically going to be very off the cuff. But yeah, let's start this off with just a simple question. How are things? Just generally. Things are going pretty okay. I mean, I can't complain. I certainly can. I am a little bit tired because it's been a lot of working on stuff the last few days. And allergy season is just kind of really kicking my ass in terms of pollen, just feeling like I'm dying all the time. But otherwise, it's going pretty good. Next off, we have, let's start off with a classic. Is there any piece of media, any kind of media, that you enjoy, even though something like that isn't usually your thing? And conversely, is there any piece of media that you thought you were going to love, but ended up disliking for whatever reason? This is a great question, and actually, kind of got me thinking a lot about things. As far as something I love that I normally wouldn't, the answer I think that primarily comes to mind here is Sonic Mania. I'm not the biggest 2D platformer fan. I like them. There's a lot of 2D platformer games that I like. Super Mario World Classic, the 2D Mario games, generally very good. I'm sure I've played others that I like. Castlevania 4, if that counts as a platformer, probably doesn't. But it's never been my go-to genre of choice, just because it's not the era of video gaming that I grew up in. And I also am just bad at video games, and a lot of 2D platformers are very punishing. And Sonic even more so. I was never really into Sonic as a kid, and kind of trying to get into it as an adult has been sort of a mixed bag. So I didn't really expect to like Sonic Mania that much. And it's not like my favorite game, but it was one of those where it clicked with me. I was like, oh, this is why people like these games. This is why these games can be good. This is like the style, the energy, the artwork. I get it. So that was a very cool experience. On the flip side, though, piece of me I thought I was gonna love but ended up not disliking. I feel like this qualifies for a lot of things, just not because I'm pedantic, but just because it's a lot. Generally, I know the stuff that I'm going to love and then end up loving, and heartbreak stands out more often than surprise. The first one that comes to mind is Marcus E. Danielewski's series, The Familiar, which, if you don't know, it was supposed to be this 27 book, I believe, saga, about a girl who finds a cat and is going to have multiple narrators and have all this, elaborate, typography and typesetting and things like that. And I remember being really excited for the first book. I got the first book, the day it came out. I was a big fan of House of Leaves and Only Revolutions. I really loved those. And, I can appreciate the effort and artistry that was put into it. But I don't know if it was just, me at the time that it came out and the year since just not being in the place to get into something like that. But I just found it very much and very unapproachable. And I feel bad about that. I legit want to give this series a second chance. I have the first 2 books. I keep thinking about trying to get back into them. Admittedly, a bit less now that I know that the series has been canceled. They only released 5 books. But I don't know. I remember just having a hard time really visualizing, what the story was supposed to be and trying to figure out exactly what was going on. And it felt like all of these, different characters and typography sets weren't, building up the world so much as they were just kind of there. And I feel really bad about that. And so one of these days I'll give it a second chance and try it again. because I know it has a lot of really big fan bases, or it has a really big fan base. But it's I don't know. I'll have to try it out again. I should probably name a piece of media that people actually know about. I feel like getting a little bit of hate in my comments. I didn't love Logan as much as I thought I was gonna love Logan, which is a shame because like I like the X-Men film series pretty well, and I love the trailer for Logan. I was really hyped and really excited for this idea, and like I thought it was pretty cool that they were going to do this and that it was going to be R-rated and that they was going for this tone. And I watched it and like the movie's good. Like don't get me wrong, the movie's good. I like it, and it's got some really great performances from, you know, Jackman and Patrick Stewart and the girl playing what's her name? Laura. But I think at the end of the day, the thing that disappointed me the most about Logan is that the performances are good, yes, and you know, it is dealing with a lot more serious emotions than the X-Men films usually do, but kind of when you strip that away, or you look past the R rating or whatever, it feels a lot like a standard X-Men film, down to the villains, down to the way the plot unfolds, down to the way that the rest of the world is shaped. And I found that kind of disappointing, and it's something to where I just rewatched the movie a few weeks ago, and like it's still a little bit disappointing to me that like the film kind of just starts to feel a little bit standard in the second half, especially once they introduce you know who. If you haven't seen the movie, I'm not going to spoil it, but yeah, I don't know. I felt really bad that I didn't like Logan as much as I wanted to. It's still good, but I really want it to be something special. Anyway, next question. Here's a simple one. What kind of video games are you into? Do you have a preference for any specific platform, and are there any games in particular that you would consider your favorite? This is a good question. I think in general, like the types of video games I'm into are probably I play a lot of 3D platformers just because I really like those a lot. They're very calming to me. They remind me of my childhood, which is great. And I play a lot of RPGs, and I play the Souls games, which are the combination between 3D platformers and RPGs. I generally either have two modes, which is like, I want to turn my brain off and play something that plays like a PS2 game, or I want to do something that's very intensive, very story heavy, that's going to have me immersed for a few hours. As far as specific platforms, I have a preference too. I'm very much into the Sony side of things. That's just the console I always had. We had a PS1 growing up, and then PS2, PS3, and then PS4, and so on and so forth. So I have a lot more attachment to their franchises, their studios, their style of games. And I just consider the PS2, honestly, I think, to be my favorite console, just because so many good like games and series came out of that. It was like this perfect era for a lot of 3D gaming, because we got rid of a lot of the jank like the jankiness that was in the PS1 era, but we still had a lot of like the fun gameplay elements that came from that, and we were kind of discovering what 3D games could look like and what they could be and what you could do with them. So I thought that was really cool. As far as like games I would consider my favorite, my general go-to answers for this is that like Mass Effect 2, Bloodborne, and Shadow of the Colossus. And I know those are like the three, just like those are like three of the most acclaimed games of all time, so that's like the basic answer. That's like saying, wow, my favorite movie is Citizen Kane. But it's true. I think all three of those games are really good for very different reasons, and they're games that I find myself going back to fairly often just because I really enjoy them. Special mentions go to Kingdom Hearts, just the entire series. I don't know if I'd place any singular game from Kingdom Hearts on like my top 10 list or whatever, if I was to make a top 10 list for whatever reason. But like at this point, the game series is such a part of my life that trying to divorce it from that is impossible. I do have just this dumb attachment to this stupid franchise. And the Metal Gear games, Metal Gear Solid 3 specifically, I think is a masterpiece that deserves a remake by someone. Please give us a Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, or a re-release even. I just want to play it again. But yeah, those are generally the video games I tend to play whenever I get around to playing video games. Next question. How do you pick the topics you make videos on? Do you have a long list of things you want to make things about, and how long is it? Or do you pick something from your brain when you begin planning a video? So the way that I pick what video I'm going to do is that I kind of just really think about if I have something to say on the matter. And that sounds really simple, but that's kind of it, where it's like I generally find something, be it something like obscure or something well known or whatever, And when I watch these things, they tend to live in my head for a little bit. And if they live in my head in such a way that I feel like, hey, I have a very strong thesis statement or a very strong story or narrative that I think I can present with this, be it like, you know, the demo reel narrative of how it ties into the nostalgia critic, as well as spotlighting, I guess, some of the weirder, strange, controversial elements that demo reel would get into. And with Save to Win, it was just kind of exploring the idea of marketing and game shows and dollar stores and the ethics behind kind of combining all those things. So I kind of try to find these little narrative through lines or just thesis statements or ideas that I think would be interesting to make a video on. I don't want to make a video just because I want to talk about a subject. It's because I feel like I have something to say. And for like I do have a long list of things that I want to make things about. Like, I have a section of my computer just dedicated to different topic ideas that I've had over the years, and I also just have them in my brain. And I kind of just go through them and see, like, which one I feel like doing at the time, which one makes sense to cover. Yeah, all of that. And it's a long list, so hopefully I'll be preoccupied with ideas for a while. Also, Lily asked, what's your favorite film that you don't think enough people talk about? I feel like this is an underrated gem question. My underrated gem, or favorite film that I don't think enough people talk about, Guillermo del Toro's Cronos. It's a very good film, made in the early 90s. I believe it might have been del Toro's first, and I think it's honestly pretty good. It's not my favorite del Toro film, but it's very interesting, and it has a lot of his imaginations and stuff. It focuses on vampires, which I very much love and appreciate and respect. And I feel like it doesn't get talked about a lot because a lot of people just haven't seen it. You know, it's kind of low budget, came out in the early 90s, it's mostly in Spanish. But if you get a chance, track it down and watch it, because I think it's just a really cool, interesting little movie. And I always find going to directors' early work to be really fascinating, because you get to see how their style has developed and changed over time, and whether or not that style was there from the beginning, and how they're able to do it when they didn't have a lot of the resources that they might have now. So check it out if you can. There's a really good Criterion release of it. What are some of your favorite creators on YouTube? Bonus question, do you have a favorite video essay from another YouTuber? So favorite creators on YouTube, not Sarah. Definitely not Sarah. She's the worst. But no, as far as favorite creators go, pretty standard, I think, for a lot of other video essayists you're going to find. I think the ones that I find myself to be like, I go back to these videos a lot, and I you know, kind of look at them as a sort of inspiration, is Folding Ideas and Ta in the Shadows. Folding Ideas just makes a lot of the analysis videos that I like kind of want to try to emulate. Not like I'm trying to like replicate Dan Olson, but just more like, I remember watching the Art of Editing and Suicide Squad video and being like, oh, this is the type of online content that I want to see more of. You know, something that's like analyzing a movie, but not just like saying this movie sucks, but kind of actually breaking apart the specifics and kind of going through it in a very professional way. And Ta in the Shadows, I've been watching for, God, since 2009 now, and it's been really cool to see his progression as a critic, because I think he's always been good. I've always been a fan of his, but he's really, I think, kind of changed his style in a lot of really fun, unique ways, and subtle ways too, where the show has gone from being like, haha, let's riff on a bad pop song, and, you know, genuine history and analysis and cultural context and things like that. It's very fascinating, and I always like come out of his videos learning a bit of something and just being generally entertained as well. Also Chip Cheesem. Chip Cheesem, best Let's Player on YouTube by far. He makes these really, really great, really well edited Let's Plays. The Metal Gear Solid 5 Let's Play he did is a masterpiece. Best Let's Play on YouTube. Absolutely watch it. They're hyper edited. He's so knowledgeable. He shows off everything a game's capable of. They're doing a remake of Final Fantasy VII Remake right now. Watch it. It's fantastic. Underrated channel. They deserve way more subscribers than they got. Do I have a favorite video essay from another YouTuber? Going back to Dan Olson, if it comes to video essays that I rewatch, I go back to Dan's video on Annihilation and Ending Explained videos, just because it kind of hit on a very specific note for me in terms of my frustrations with a lot of online internet criticism. And it also just talks about Annihilation, which is a good movie that more people should watch. And so it's just a very cathartic essay for me to watch. It just captures a lot of what I've been wanting to say and what I've been wanting others to say. What's the point in a rabbit hole that makes you stop and say, I want to make a video on this? Like, I'm sure you have things that need to be met to make a video. Like, one, access to a lot of footage, and two, not part of the copyright claim happy companies. But is there a moment when something tickles you just right and you're like, I need to spread this story to others? Well, kind of like what I was saying earlier, a lot of it is just like trying to find out and striking that moment where like there is a story here or there is something to say about this, whether or not that's telling about a weird part of history that not people know about that I think that they should know about, or if it's like there's an aspect of this work that I think hasn't been properly analyzed or properly like taken apart, and I feel like I have something that I can say about it. You know, there have definitely been times where I find things that could qualify for a video theoretically because, you know, they have stories behind them, or they're, you know, interesting or obscure or just kind of neat. But I tend to not do them because either they're so overdone to the point that I don't feel like I have anything that I, as Emily, can say, or the circumstances just aren't there that I feel like, you know, it's not enough for there to just be like, here's this wacky, weird, obscure online thing I found. There has to be like something more, like something to make the narrative worth it, where it's like once that initial shell shock of, oh, this is a thing that exists, wears off, that there's something still to take away from it and something interesting to latch on to. Yeah, that's generally how I do things. And this can actually like change dramatically through a project. I've started projects where I'm like, oh, I don't know if I actually want to cover this at all. And then I've done projects where it's like, I don't think I'm going to cover this. And then something happens. And then I'm like, this is absolutely going back on the list. I'm going to keep making notes for this. Yeah, it just kind of varies. But I just try to make sure that it's something that's always going to be interesting and something that people are going to walk away with, hopefully more than just sort of a thing weird or thing bad sort of take. Next question. Do you prefer the top of the bagel or the bottom of the bagel? This is a very interesting question, and I wish I had a better answer for you. I've never had a bagel. It's not a thing that I've ever eaten. I've had a donut. Donuts are okay, but like donuts aren't bagels. They're like a lot worse. I didn't try bread until like 5 years ago, so I'm very behind on the bread scene. Last night I ate a hot dog on the bun for a first time, so I'm sure I'll get to bagels at some point. I just need to get around to like finding out how people eat bagels and buying bagels and then prepping the bagel and figuring out what bagel is right for me. But I guess generally I like things that aren't crispy or like kind of like a little bit soft. So like whatever's the softest part of the bagel, I consider me either a top or bottom, just whichever softest. Do you have any media franchises that you love but will never do a video about because an in-depth analysis may ruin the magic for you? Probably a few. I think the one that comes to mind right off the top of my head is Star Wars. Star Wars is one of my favorite franchises. I love it to death. It's just something that I take a lot of joy in. And yet, like, as I sit down and think about video essays that I want to do, I can't think of any ideas for Star Wars that spring to mind. You know, partially because Star Wars is just so overcovered on YouTube that I just can't imagine trying to come up with anything new or original or fresh to say about it. Like, there's only so many, like, here's why Last Jedi is good takes that I could put online, despite Last Jedi, like, being good. But I also think that, like, I am critical of Star Wars as a franchise. Like, if I'm watching things in private on my own or playing things or reading things, whatever, you know, I do have critiques, I do have notes. But overall, my view of the franchise is mostly just like, yeah, it exists, and even when I'm watching stuff that I don't necessarily, like, care a lot about or disagree with a lot of the plot choices in, like, Rise of Skywalker, I don't find myself going, like, I need to do an epic, brutal takedown of this. I still find myself kind of in the back of my head enjoying this, and I feel like, you know, I can do in-depth analysis of it, but for the sake of, like, trying to just keep my own peace of mind and keep myself calm, it's not something that I'm necessarily jumping to do, unless something comes up and I do find a way to make this interesting for me. Otherwise, I'm kind of fine just being in my corner and enjoying Star Wars. Jedi Fallen Order is really good. I really liked the most recent season of Clone Wars, and Mandalorian Season 2 was also good, but that's about as in-depth as I want to get about it right now. So yeah, that's my answer for that. If you could make your own Godzilla vs. Kong kind of mashup/fight movie, which two characters or franchises would you put against each other? This is a very good question, and it's something I thought about a lot. And I'm a very practical person. I only like to pitch things that could really realistically happen in real life. So when I got this, I started like thinking about franchises that could actually conceivably do a crossover because of like legal issues and distributions and things like that. And considering these two films have the same distributor, theoretically they could cross over. So my pitch would be Eighth Grade versus Lady Bird. Now, I know what you may be thinking, like, that doesn't necessarily make any sense. I mean, for starters, those films take place in two different eras of time. You know, Lady Bird's like, what, 2002? And then Eighth Grade takes place in 2018. And, like, I say, yeah, but you know what? Kong Skull Island took place in the 70s, and Godzilla and Kong were still able to fight. You know, people age, people change. And even if that means, like, a 30-year-old ladybird fighting a 20-year-old version of the girl from 8th grade, then I absolutely feel for it. I think that it could be a very good movie, and it would have two very talented actresses, and I think that the action scenes would be very good. So 8th Grade versus Lady Bird, I think, is my answer. You can get Greta Gerwig to direct it again. I don't know what she's doing right now, but put her on that. What's your favorite trashy reality show? I mean, it's trashy. Kitchen Nightmares. It's Kitchen Nightmares. There's something very appealing about it. There's something very simple. I don't know anything about cooking. I don't know anything about food. I mean, like a few months ago, I said that I've never eaten a bagel, so I definitely am not the type of person to talk about food. But there's something very cathartic and interesting about seeing these restaurants and seeing Ramsay and seeing the process of it. It's total garbage. Like, it's not like a quote-quote good show, but it is a show that I find myself watching a lot and putting on in the background a lot. And yeah, I was going to do a video on it this month, but then people voted not for me not to do that. So oops. Yeah. I watched 90 Day Fiancé, the first season of that, with my boyfriend, about a year ago. And that was pretty fun. It's garbage. It's trash, but it was a very enjoyable watching experience. Next question. Your second video seemed to come out pretty quickly after the first one, considering the length, at least compared to most video essay YouTubers. Are you planning on keeping up that pace in the future? Also, I'm 100% on your side in the hashtag feud against the tyrannical Coolsville hating Sarah Z. Yeah. Well, first off, thank you for supporting me in the feud. It's been a very stressful period of tension between Sarah and I, especially as we've been having to write this script for the past week, while also going through a hashtag feud. But I definitely appreciate, and I think all the support is going to pay off. As for, like, the update pace and the release schedule, hopefully it comes out pretty quickly. Here's the thing with what happened with the Save to Win video, which was that a bulk of the script was written last August. I had already watched the show last August. I had done a lot of the breakdown of the show, like that second round 2 segment where it's just going through it. That was almost entirely unchanged from my original script. And so when it came time to move on from the demo reel video, I went and I picked up the Save to Win script, and I was able to retool it, and I was able to make it without having to go through the time of like rewatching the entire series and recollecting my thoughts. I did add a lot to the script. I doubled it up, but I was able to do that. And as far as like keeping that pace, I want to. I really, really want to, especially kind of with the stuff taking off as it has, and with the way YouTube works, and just sort of my own personal satisfaction. I would love to do at least one video a month. I think would be super nice. I'm not going to make any promises on that, just because this is a one-woman operation here. I am writing this myself, editing this myself, putting this all together. It's all me. And, like, I also have another job. I write for Sarah, and, I love it, but it also means that, like, it's not just making one video essay a month, but I am essentially writing 2 video essays a month, and there's just one that I edit, and that can take a lot of time and brain power and energy and things like that. And especially kind of since we're at the point now where I don't have a lot of the pre-written scripts in the same way that I did with Save to Win and Demo Reel. I don't know. I'm going to try my best to keep the upload schedule. I'm going to try my best to be frequent. No promises. This is why the Patreon is paid by video and not paid by month, just because I don't feel comfortable at the moment charging if I'm not actually delivering. Yeah, that's... I'm going to try. I'm genuinely going to try, but I can't promise. Bear with me if things start to take a little bit longer. Next we have... this question's very simple. It's just pissy shitties? F. Pissy shitties. I don't know how to answer this question, like in terms of yes or no. I guess I can give a little anecdote because like now I'm just thinking about pissy shitties. So like back in right before my senior year of high school, I was working at the movie theater in a mall in my city. It was a very like popular movie theater, very popular mall. So we had a lot of the new technology and new techniques and things like that. And it was like actually my first job that I had ever had. I had just turned 17 and was willing to enter the workforce because I wanted to get paid. And so uh I went through the usual stuff that they have you do when you start working on a movie theater. So it was like learning how to run the box office, learning how to clean theaters, learning how to make popcorn, learning how to make pissy shitties. And like the whole process was overall pretty smooth. And they ended up really liking me in the concession stand. So they just put me in the concession stand. And this was a very interesting time to work at the theater because, like I said, we were one of the most popular theaters in the area. So we were getting a lot of the higher tech, I guess, more experimental things that would end up becoming commonplace now in the area, which is like reserved seating, Dolby theaters, and also the Coca-Cola freestyle machines, which like if you know about them, those are the ones where it's like they have the touchscreen and you can choose like the variety of like 100 different flavors and like sub flavors and things like that. They're very nice, if anything, just because they're very easy as a worker to change out the little cartridges that come inside of them. And it also means that we don't have to worry about it. And it means you can get lemon Powerade, which is very, very good. And so it was really good for soda, but there was a bit of controversy there because, like, beforehand, when it came to filling up drinks, we'd have, like, the old style, like, multiple different, like, dispenser things that would stay behind the bar. And that would be primarily used to fill up people's drinks and pissy shitties. And so there was a little bit of adjustment because, like, generally speaking, being able to put your own soda in your pissy shitty and, like, your own pace is, like, what people want. But for a lot of people, they're not used to that. They don't like that. Like, I know I'm a lot happier when I go to the theater and I can, like, get my tub of popcorn and just put the soda in there to make my pissy shitty. And then you can, like, refill it and things like that. But, some people just didn't like that. And I guess I can get it, So we'd have to make things to accommodate them. This was around the time Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out. So we had a lot of Amazing Spider-Man 2 pissy shitty buckets. And one of the things we'd have to do was, like, kind of layer the thing in, like, the same way they do with butter, right? To where it's like you fill up the pissy shitty bucket, like, halfway with popcorn. And then you hand it out to the customer who will then, like, choose whatever soda they want. Usually Pib Extra. A lot of people here in the area love Pib Extra. And they would fill it up. And, like, at that point, you would bring it back. We'd fill it up with a little bit more popcorn. And then they put more pissy shitty fluid in it. And that usually worked pretty well. But there was one guy who was, like, he asked for a pissy shitty. And we handed him an empty bucket of popcorn. He was like, well, where's the soda that's supposed to go in there? And I'm like, oh, well, sir, if you just go to the Coke freestyle machine like a few steps away, you can fill it up with whatever soda you want. And he was like, I don't want to do that. Can you fill it up for me? And I'm like, well, no, I can't really because I'm not, it's really busy. I can't step outside of the little concession stand area. And he's like, looked me dead in the eyes. And he's like, I've been getting pissy shitties from this store since the 1960s. And I am never, ever coming back to this theater again. And I mean, I don't know if I ever saw him again. I put in my 3 weeks notice like a few weeks later. I'm sorry. I hope that he found another theater for his pissy shitty needs. But yeah, whenever I think of pissy shitties at the movie theater, I think about the kind of the controversy that we had to deal with around that time. Next question is another video game one. Hi, you like video games? Any plans to cover a weird game or interactive media in a future essay? I'll be very interested in your input about any kind of media regardless. Big fan of your work. Keep it up. Cheers from Mexico. Well, first off, hello. I'm glad I have fans in Mexico. That's really cool. As far as covering video games or weird interactive media, it's definitely crossed my mind. There's been a few things where I'm like, oh, I'd love to talk about it. In fact, if I'm allowed to self-plug real quick, if you go to the Lady Emily Patreon, you'll see that there is a $1,000 Patreon goal where if you get it to $1,000, I will make feature-length videos on the Kingdom Hearts series, which is something I both want to do and I'm also very afraid to do. So if you want that to happen, I guess donate to the Patreon because otherwise I'm keeping it locked there. But yeah, I do have other ideas. I don't know how soon I'll be able to like see those ideas into fruition because video games obviously take a lot longer usually because it's a lot of playing through the game and capturing footage and going through it and things like that in a way that's very different from just watching a thing. But I definitely have some ideas, so never rule out anything. Next one, how did you and Sarah end up working together? What's the partnership dynamic like? I'm going to pair this up with a lot of the questions that I got asked like numerous times about how me and Sarah met, because it's kind of the same thing. So Sarah and I met a few years ago on a Discord server. I had been a fan of her work for a little bit. Like, I just was watching her videos and thought, she was really cool and I liked them a lot. And so we began talking and we realized we had a lot in common in terms of like sense of humor, background, general writing style and things like that. We just kind of clicked in that sense. And so kind of over time we just became friends, just sort of became Discord server friends. And then I started doing some kind of small work in Sarah's ad videos. Nothing like super substantial. Like, I did 2 voice lines in Not Like Other Girls and My Immortal back to back. And I would later do one for the DashCon vid, I think. And so I did those, and then eventually I was getting asked to proofread scripts. Like, nothing substantial, but just like, hey, the script is done. Do you want to look through it to see if it looks good, or if there's anything I need to fix or change or need to add or anything? Very small, very, very minor. And then last August, Sarah and I were conversing about a D&D game we were in, and that led to someone posting a Howcast video on how to practice your first kiss. And that led to us just kind of sending how-to videos back to each other, which led to us finding Video Jug, or rediscovering Video Jug. And that kind of led to, like, us going down the rabbit hole of seeing all these weird Video Jug things that existed, the different titles and different videos and things like that. And then we started to look more into the company, and it's like, well, are they still around? What happened? And we realized there was a lot here, and we were kind of just building off on it and building off on it. And so kind of, I think, after a few hours of this, Sarah was like, I think we might actually make a video on this. And she was like, hey, if I do turn this into a video idea, do you want to co-write it with me? And of course I said yes, because I like doing writing work, and I also like working with my friend. So we did that, and it went pretty well. We did a lot of the research together. We did a lot of the writing. And then, like, kind of towards the end of that, she was like, hey, I think in October I'm going to do a video about the John Locke conspiracy if you wanted to work on that with me. And I said yes, because I like writing work and I like working with my friend. And so then I just kind of kept getting brought back, and now I guess I'm just here as a co-writer. And the partnership dynamic, it's kind of, I guess, loose partnership in terms of, like, the way that it generally works is that Sarah and I will figure out what the idea is going to be, and usually it's Sarah figuring out, because she is the director of her channel. And we'll sort of sit down and we'll go through what exactly we want to talk about, go through the research that we can find, and break it down as best as we possibly can. We'll make like a little outline document of going this point, this point, this point, this point, this point. And then when it comes to the actual writing itself, we set up one just shared Google document that we can then edit at our own pace. And at that point, there's a lot of freedom in terms of who's writing what, where, when. The way Sarah divides her videos is also the way I divide my videos, by the way, which is like adding like little chapters and things like that. And so what usually will happen is, like, Sarah will be like, I'll write this point about Tumblr right here. Emily, do you want to write this point about media production and media analysis? We kind of just do that until, like, we have a full script, and then Sarah goes through it and makes sure that it's in her voice and everything, and that it all flows together. The partnership dynamic, I guess, it kind of does work like that, to where we're very similar in terms of our sense of humor and experiences, but we also have a very different background. Sarah was on Tumblr a lot more as a teenager than I was, has a lot more knowledge about sociology and the study of this, and also more video essay experience just in general. And there's me, who I went to film school. I was on Reddit. I did a lot of film theory work when I was in film school. So, like, I can talk about things, like for the All or Nothing video, Sarah can do a good job speaking about the climate of Tumblr at the time, and I can do a good job talking about, here's the issue with the Kickstarter and why this doesn't work from a production sense. So that's how that works out. And it balances out to create, I think, what feels like a very full, fulfilling product. Next question we have is, how is it like co-writing versus writing on your own? And kind of, I guess, this is a good question, and kind of goes back to that element of, when I'm co-writing, I'm writing for a different person. Granted, it's a person who I'm, very good friends with, and who I know her voice pretty well at this point. But I am writing for a different person compared to writing for myself, where I know exactly what my voice sounds like. I know when I write a word or a sentence, how I want to enunciate, like how... I know when I write a certain sentence or word, I know how I want to, like, pronounce it, how I want to space it out, how I want a paragraph to sound, go, flow, and things like that. Another big difference is that Sarah records all of her videos. She films them. She is in person compared to me, which is like I'm doing voiceover. So a lot of the gags that I would write in a Sarah video, I can't write in an Emily video and vice versa. So like for the All or Nothing vid, I wrote the little scene in there where Sarah pulls out the bisexual agenda and says like the make daily Irene Adler rant or something. And that's a joke that only works if Sarah is on frame, has a bisexual agenda notebook, and can pull it out. I couldn't do that in an Emily script. Like that joke would be very awkward. It would be very hard to get the timing on that right. Well, in a Lady Emily video, I have a lot of voiceover work, which means I have to rely more on constructing my jokes, not through physical props or physical movements or anything like that, but just kind of through, a lot of the times, captions or little images that I can put up on screen. Like the image in the Save to Win video of the tinfoil hat slowly sliding on my head is something that I don't think you could do in a Sarah video. I mean, you could. We did a tinfoil hat joke in John Locke, but it was obviously like very different. It's stuff like that that's very subtle. But yeah, that's the main difference, is just the difference between trying to find someone else's voice versus your own and accounting for the changes in presentation because of it. What's your personal favorite video jug video? I know it's not on the main video jug channel, and we already talked about it in the video itself, but I really just love the How to Play Ocarina of Time 3D video. It has such shitpost energy. You'd think it would be like a video like Griffin's Amiibo Corner or something. The idea of this how-to video that just literally shows you how to put the game in your 3DS and then boot it up and hit the press start button is so funny to me. It makes no sense. And it kind of just encapsulates, I think, everything that Video Jug was trying to do, which was like not necessarily make helpful tutorials so much as just flood search algorithms in the hopes that maybe someone will find this useful. It's very funny. I go back to it because it's just so comedically timed. Favorite Persona 5 character? I saw that reference in the last video, eye emoji. Yeah, I got caught. Persona 5's very good game. I think of my favorite characters, Makoto is perfect. She's fantastic. Love her a lot. She's the one I did the romance option for when I played the original Persona 5. I am doing Persona 5 Royal right now. I'm about halfway through that. I'm really loving Kasumi. I think she's a really fun character. I'm excited to see where her story goes. Please don't spoil it, but yeah, I'd say right now it's still Makoto. I think she's just has a lot of the characteristics that I find fun. You know, very scholarly but anxious. Would you ever consider making anime-related video essays? I had no idea what Channel Awesome was, but the Evangelion bit in the beginning of that video had me hooked. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's something that I want to make. Like, I'm not the biggest anime nerd out there. I can't talk about a lot of the obscure things. I definitely have an End of Evangelion video that is going to happen at some point. I just have to kind of figure out when. So for like all the people who commented on Demo Reel, it's like you offered a very simplistic sophomoric interpretation of End of Evangelion. Yeah, I know. I had to condense it to a lot just to get it to fit the Demo Reel narrative. I do have a very more thorough plan for that franchise. But I've also thought a lot about like Dragon Ball GT or like Death Note have kind of been ideas that have been going through my head of videos that I want to do. Once again, like really basic shit, like very like everyone knows about this shit. I'm not someone who knows a lot of obscure anime. I haven't been immersed in that scene fully in a while, but there is anime stuff that I do want to talk about because I find it to be very cool. So yeah, if you want any of that, let me know and I might bump it up on the production timeline. Do you have any plans to cover other members of Channel Awesome or their projects? Do you still follow any of their content? So never say never, but right now I don't have any plans to cover any more Channel Awesome members. The main reason for this is that a lot of the members of Channel Awesome have left Channel Awesome like a while ago, and they left on very bad terms. They don't have a lot of fond memories of the company, and their projects, like, they were either stuff that they did when they were a lot younger, and if they didn't age well, they didn't age well because they're stuff made by like, you know, young 20-somethings and like early 2010s internet, or like they're still making projects and the projects are still fairly good and still worth talking about, or not even worth talking about, but they're just like they're fine. Like, they're fine. There's nothing really worth talking about there because it's just people continuing to make, you know, good online web content. And like, I don't want to drag people back into Channel Awesome drama if they don't want to be involved in Channel Awesome drama. And that really limits the amount of like what I can cover from there, but I'm perfectly fine with that. And as far as like the members of Channel Awesome, it's basically just Doug Walker and Brad Jones at this point, and like the associated team members for that. And, you know, never say never, but I can't think of anything about Brad Jones at the moment that I think is worth covering, not without just turning into a drama channel, which I don't want to do. Or like with Doug Walker, a lot of his projects that are very like controversial or very like obviously bad that you can call out have been called out numerous times by people probably better than me. Like, I don't need to make a video on Boldly Flea. I don't need to make a video on The Wall because everyone has done those. Everyone knows the flaws of that. The reason why I did Demo Reel was that there was a lot of stuff that personally bothered me about it, and not a lot of people were talking about it with the same thoroughness that I would have wanted to see. And so, never say never. If I do find something or something new comes out that I think is worth talking about, or like, if I ever decide to do Pop Quiz Hotshot, except I probably won't because Ralph the Movie Maker already did a video on Pop Quiz Hotshot, but if I do, you know, that might be it. But otherwise, it's like, I don't want to make content about online content creators just for the sake of it. I know that might kind of disappoint some of you. I know a lot of you came from the Demo Reel video, but I don't really want to... I don't want to do that. And same like when I get questions about like, will you cover like AVGN or like insert channel here, where it's like, I can't just make a video about an online content creator if the only narrative that people have is like, I used to like this content creator and now I don't. Because there's just not a lot there. And like, especially if the person in question seems like an okay person, right? Like, part of the reason why talking about Channel Awesome and the people like still directly involved in it is that there is so much controversy about Channel Awesome and so much controversy about the change of the channel and their popularity and their brand of criticism that I don't know if it's worth, like, it feels okay to do in a same way that it wouldn't if I was like, look at this random YouTuber that I found that's bad, that used to do Channel Awesome stuff. Like, that's not as interesting to me personally. Never say never, obviously. If I do find some of this stuff, I'll make it, but right now I don't have any plans to cover any other Channel Awesome content. What's been the weirdest part of the Demo Reel video blowing up? I think, well, one, the fact that it blew up in general is very strange. I've done the YouTube rodeo before. I had a channel when I was 11. And I know how hard it is to get views and attention on YouTube, especially in a crowded marketplace, and especially when you're starting off from square one, essentially. And so I figured people would probably see it because I didn't have like no audience, but like I set a goal for myself to where it was like, oh, if this video gets 1,000 views, I'll buy myself Parkitect. And it hit 1,000 views within a day. I thought it was going to take a few months, and I hit it within a day, and then it just kind of kept growing, and now it's like a thing. I think it's just kind of, I think one of the weirdest parts has been seeing a lot of the content creators who I used to watch when I was like a kid, commenting on it and responding to it and complimenting it and confirming a lot of what was going on with Demo Reel and confirming a lot of the mismanagement of it and just a lot of the bad shit that was tied to it. That was very strange. Also, my college screenwriting professor messaged me because he found the video. It showed up on his YouTube algorithm. And he was like, hey, I don't know if it's okay to ask you this, but do you have a YouTube channel? Because I think I just watched one of your videos. So, if you're still watching this, hi. I don't know if you're watching my channel, but I hope I'm putting all of those screenwriting techniques to good use. This is what I'm doing now. But yeah, it's just been a surreal experience overall. I'm so grateful for it. But wow, I did not expect any of this to happen. How did you even find Save to Win? Generally, where do you find all these weird videos from the corners of YouTube? From a variety of sources. For Save to Win specifically, I found it via TV Tropes, which is generally a good place to find a lot of obscure series and things. I was browsing, I think, the So Bad It's Horrible page for game shows, and it showed up, and I went and I clicked on the page for it because I was like, holy shit, a Family Dollar game show on the CW, and kind of read up on it and then watched it and found it very strange. But like a lot of the times it is TV Tropes or Reddit or just YouTube recommendations. They have a lot of that kind of, I guess, going for it. That's usually how I find it. How does one pronounce the word? Okay, well, this one's just cyberbullying. Um, how does one pronounce the word cran? Do you pronounce it like that? Cran, cran. Right? It's right. You pronounce it like cran, right? Also, what's the stupidest fucking idiot dogshit bad movie take you've ever seen? Um, I've seen a lot of bad movie takes. I think, well, no horror film can be set in space is one that's in my head, but that's just because it's fairly recent. I think the one that's the most pervasively bad is the existence of objective media and objective media critique, and that film can be like critiqued objectively. It's, I think, the stupidest and the most harmful one because it's like it can be counteracted just by looking up the definition of the word like objectivity, and it can be counteracted very easily. And yet you still have a lot of people trying to objectively prove that a film is good and bad when you just cannot do that. And we need to stop doing that because it's not a good thing to do. Riverdale video when? Um, I would love to do a Riverdale video. I've never watched it, but I have a friend who has watched a lot of Riverdale, and he has a lot of comments on it. And if he wants to be my Riverdale, my Riverdale, scholar, I would love it. I mean, personally, like, Sarah made the video Everything Wrong with Riverdale, and that was like years ago, and I'm still waiting for her to make the Everything Wrong with Riverdale too, because a lot has happened since then, from my understanding. So, like, honestly, you should campaign for that from Sarah. So message Sarah with make Riverdale season 2, and also ask about Insatiable season 2. She loves it. Ask her about it. Is Berserk worth watching / reading? This is okay. So Berserk is my favorite series of all time. Like, not just my favorite manga or anime series, just like my favorite series. I think it's legitimately a masterpiece in artwork, writing, everything. Like, I have a tattoo of it. The series means a lot to me. But with that in mind, do I think Berserk is worth watching / reading? Yes, but with a lot of asterisks attached to it. The first one being that, one, the first arc of Berserk, kind of sketchy. Not bad, but kind of sketchy. Miura, I think, was trying to, by his own admission, make a series where the protagonist was so unlikable, at least at first, and he definitely succeeded, but it's definitely, the first arc of Berserk feels a lot like edgelord bullshit, which is not what I like from Berserk. So I wouldn't say skip it, I'm just saying, like, go into it with the knowledge that it's not that. Two, a lot of the adaptations of Berserk, they're mixed. I love the original 97 anime. I adore it. I think it's my favorite anime. I think it's just perfect in terms of presentation, music, voice acting, everything. It does so much correct. It is a masterpiece. If you have to get into Berserk, I recommend doing it like that. It's going to be hard because there's not an official English release of it right now. All the English releases are out of print, at least here in America. I think there's some overseas. But there are ways to watch it if you want. The other two adaptations, the Golden Age trilogy films and Berserk 2016, are a bit more of a mixed bag. The Golden Age films are okay. Berserk 2016, not so much. So I can't recommend jumping in with those or really seeking those out unless you're already a fan. I want to do a video breaking down the various adaptations of Berserk and, like, their pros and cons and, like, how this all works. I don't know if anyone would watch it, though. It might just be me, because I do have 2 videos that I'd love to do about Berserk. I just don't know the fan base. So, like, if you want a Berserk video, comment that you want a Berserk video, and I'll make one. My third asterisk, as far as Berserk the series goes, is that it has a lot of graphic violence and a lot of sexual assault. And the treatment of the sexual assault and the violence and the handling of it is up for debate, divisive issue, not a black and white thing. It's very complicated. But if you are someone who has an issue with those things and struggles with them, be mindful of that when you think about getting into Berserk. Either find a way that you can watch Berserk or read Berserk with, like, warnings and things like that, or just recognize that you cannot engage with this and don't engage with it. Like, it's fine. It's just, like, I just need to know. It's a very hard series to recommend for that reason, because it is very brutal, very graphic. And so I love it. I think it's a masterpiece. But there is that. And that is like a big, big, big shadow looming over a big elephant in the room. So keep that in mind. But otherwise, if you can handle that stuff, if that stuff isn't going to like affect you super, super terribly, I do recommend it. Follow-up question. And how do you write such long scripts? LOL, I always finish my point a couple of pages in. Haha. The answer to this is that I just do. It just happens. I don't know how it does. It just does. I just kind of have a lot to say, and it just kind of keeps going and going and going. Yeah, I think if you want to try to write longer scripts, try dividing up your points into subcategories, because that's going to make you realize that you have a lot to say about very specific points in what you're doing, rather than just like, here's my clump of thought. But yeah, it's kind of a curse. Here's one from Sarah. What's been your favorite writing moment? You made this very vague, and as such, there's a lot of interpretation here. So if we're just talking about writing in general, I would say it's chapters 123 through 125 of Wake Me Up When Trebuchets End. For those who don't know, I wrote this series, this trilogy called the Trials and Tragedies trilogy. It's on AO3. It starts off as a parody of My Immortal, but within a few chapters kind of becomes not that. It becomes a meta-narrative about this LGBT writer who's writing the fanfic, coming to terms with like identity and gender and things like that. And then this plot of the fanfic itself goes from being a My Immortal parody to being this long, emotional 3-book series of like 250,000 words. And like we start getting to multiverses, and Star Wars gets involved, and characters from Cats 2019 start getting involved. It's very complex, very sad, very heavy, very fun. And so when it came to chapters 123 to 125, if you're like one of the 5 people who's read this, that was like the big climactic fight scene between 2 of the main characters. And it felt very fun for me to write, because it kind of felt like a perfect encapsulation of everything sort of working out about this project. Like everything that I had been doing. It was really nice to see that I was writing a fight that I was actually pretty satisfied with. It was like satisfying to see the way that the characters had gotten to this point. For me, it captured a lot of what I was trying to do with that work. And it was like feeling like I had hit a home run. With just those chapters. I was very, very satisfied with how they turned out. And even now I look back at them a little bit and I'm still proud of how they turned out. So yeah, if you want to read it online. You don't need to know anything about any of the original material it's based off of. Just go for it. If you're talking about videos that I've like my favorite writing moment from writing videos. Hi, welcome. This is post-production Emily. If I sound different, that's because I recorded this a week later. So I had to retract my previous answer because the video just took a while to edit and come out because stuff was busy and there's stuff that I needed to retract for reasons. So I figured I'd go ahead and actually answer it from a new perspective. And that's to say, my favorite video moment as far as like writing for a video has to be this most recent one I did with Sarah, the 413 one. It was just a really wild time. It was a lot of crunching, a lot of hard work, but a lot of fun, and a lot of 5-6 hour long phone calls just going over exactly what we were planning to talk about and what we were planning to write about, and having an hour long diversion to do British accents at each other. It was great. It was the most fun I've had writing, I think, anything ever at this point. And it was just a real joy. I'll take it back to the Emily of a week ago, however she's doing. Funniest mock trial moments. Yeah, so mock trial for me doesn't really have so many funny moments so much as it has like elongated nightmares. Very anxiety-filled time. There was one moment, though, that really stands out. I think it's the moment where I lost my shit. So context, this was the state composition for mock trial. And if you've never done mock trial state, the way that it worked, at least for us, was that it was like a 2-day thing. So you had 4 rounds. The first 3 rounds were hosted on Saturday, and then you'd have 1 round Sunday morning, which afterwards, all the mock trial teams would go to this luncheon and eat lunch and have this thing. There'd be public speakers, and then they'd announce like awards and things like that, and who were the top 4 that would be going to the final 2 rounds to see who would be the state champion. And we got second in state. Like, the thing is that we were sitting there in this big, giant, really fancy lunch court diner area, like elaborate, fancy-ass hotel thing. And they had music playing on the background while we were eating on loop. And they silenced the music, and this, I think it was a judge for the state, like really super official dude, old, like in his 60s, comes up to the stand to give his very serious speech about the importance of mock trial and how it really affects kids and the joys of the legal system. And then a few minutes into the speech, the radio comes back on and it's playing What is Love on a loop the entire time he's giving the rest of the speech. And nobody knew how to turn it off. And he didn't respond to it. He didn't stop. He didn't acknowledge it. It was like just quiet enough that I don't even know if he was able to hear, but we were. And so we were all trying to contain our laughter as best as we can, because here's this judge for the state telling us about how important the legal system is and how important it is to uphold the law and the integrity of it, while What is Love, Baby Don't Hurt Me No More is looping in the background for a solid 10 minutes. And they finally, after his speech was done, managed to shut the song off. I got in trouble from laughing. It was the laugh I needed at that moment. But yeah, mock trial, I have mock trial stories, but that was the one that sticks out in my head as like the only moment that was funny. If you could canonize a new vampire weakness, something other than the usual garlic / running water / wooden stakes, what would it be? I've thought about this a lot because I really love vampires. I like vampire movies. I like writing about vampires. I love vampires. So as far as weaknesses, I think like, I think off the top of my head right now, I think the vampire weakness that I think is really cool as an idea is the idea of like blood siblings, where it's like you and a vampire can kind of like exchange blood. I'm talking about like fellow vampires, like you and fellow vampires can exchange blood and somehow end up becoming more powerful because of it, or getting like this bond, you know, the way like vampires and vampires media sometimes have like this whole like pact thing and like tight-knit group. And it works really well. But if one vampire dies, the whole rest of the group does as well. That's, I think, is a really fun idea that I would love to play with. When I wrote the Trials and Tragedy series, I did play a lot with the idea of vampire, like the ritual of turning a person into a vampire is not just an actual ritual itself, but it's like something that has a symbolic meaning of sisterhood or brotherhood or siblinghood or just in general. And so I think taking that and utilizing it as a weakness is something I'm really interested in. How long does it take you to complete a video? On my own, it depends. The weird thing with the demo reel and the save to win videos is that a lot of the like heavy work for it, not the heavy work, but like a lot of the work for it was started a while ago. And by a while ago, I mean, I downloaded the footage for demo reel October of 2019. I started making my notes for it January of 2020, and in April of 2020 is when I sat down and wrote the opening paragraph about Doug Walker and Evangelion. A lot of time that came in between that, but like as far as like when I actually started seriously working on it, the process of writing a script takes usually about, on my own, 2 nights of working on it for about probably like 5 hours each, depending on like what I'm doing and how much I have to do. And for the voiceover takes about an hour and a half, 2 hours of recording time, which I then have to spend a few hours just going through and editing out, like, mouth flaps, breathing noises, all these things that you're probably going to hear here, because I don't think I'm going to be as rigorous about this for this. So that takes a few hours. And then when it comes to actually editing the video footage, that takes usually about a week of things. And by a week, I mean, like, a work week. So, like, let's say 4 or 5 days, usually working from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., somewhere around there. A lot of that is just grabbing footage in different like footage sources, because I don't film myself, so I have to come up with things on screen every time I want to do something on screen, which takes a lot longer than you think it does, because it's a lot of just downloading, it's a lot of looking up Google image stuff, it's a lot of looking up sources that's just not fun. So I'd say in total, I'm not good at math because I'm bisexual, but I'd say probably once a video is actually starting to be worked on, it's gonna be in like the 20-hour range to see it finished. And that's underselling it. I hope that I can speed up the process as I learn more about how Adobe Premiere works and get my workflow a bit better once I get more used to what I'm doing. And final question, I think, for the day, because this has been going on for forever. What video would you make if you had unlimited time/resources? This is a very good question, and I think it comes down to two topics, for very different reasons. The first one being is that I would love to do a breakdown of the Facebook page scene, like Facebook page culture between 2012 and 2013, because I don't know if y'all were there, but around that time there was a huge push and boom of personalized Facebook pages and like novelty Facebook page accounts, and it led to like this whole thing of like personalities and sharing around of image memes and like the controversial humor tag. I kind of alluded to this in my last video, where it was like I used to admin a page called The Joker on Facebook. The reason why I would need unlimited time and resources is because we're talking about finding and reporting on stuff from Facebook that's like almost a decade old at this point. And Facebook isn't really great at archival. You're not going to find a lot of it on Wayback Machines. A lot of these accounts have been deleted for whatever reason. And if they're not deleted, they're going to be really hard to find and really hard to search through. So it's something I'd want to do, but it's something that I would need to have the data with me, and I'd need the time to go through all of it and make like a concise narrative of it, which would be hard because I don't know if anyone has ever like compiled a lot of this stuff, because I don't think people were thinking to compile a lot of this stuff. But it's something I think I would love to talk about as someone who was there and kind of directly experiencing of it, and want to talk about the rise and decline of Facebook pages. The other one that I would love to do, and like I'm probably gonna do it, but not in the way that I originally like kind of planned or had the idea on, which is like I want to do a comprehensive guide on the films of Seltzer and Friedberg, because I think that they're very hack fraud directors. I think they're very bad. I don't like them. And so I'm definitely going to do that. I'm going to do a breakdown on like all of their movies at some point in time and kind of the history of them. But when it comes to unlimited time and resources, the original idea that I had for the project was that it would be like not just a breakdown, but it'd be stylized a lot, like very professionally and very melodramatically. Like the idea I had in my head was like, if Martin Scorsese decided to edit a movie about Seltzer and Friedberg, so it'd have like a lot of like dynamic lighting and camera angles and things like that, and it'd use like a lot of licensed music. Like I think I plotted out like an idea that I slightly edited of like breaking down a montage to Give Me Shelter the same way that Scorsese did. And I don't think I'm gonna be able to do that just because I don't have the gear for it. I don't have the ability to shoot a lot of that stuff to the way that it would look in my head. And a lot of the stuff that I would love to do in terms of like music and transitions and things like that, it would revolve so much fucking copyrighted shit that I don't know if I could get away with in terms of playing Rolling Stones music, Simon and Garfunkel music, a lot of licensed songs that I don't know if YouTube would let me get away with. I feel like they would get really mad at me. And also I feel like the more you stylize something like that, the more it starts to become a channel or something, and I don't want to do that. So I'll probably keep like the meat of it the same, but like the candy aspects of it, like the little fluff of like that Scorsese framing device, will probably get lost just because I don't have the time and resources to deal with trying to shoot something like that and trying to get something like that to work past the YouTube machine. But yeah, that's all the questions that I think I can answer right now. This video has run on for very long, a lot longer than I thought it was going to. If I didn't answer your question, I'm very sorry. Please don't take it personally. I got a lot of them and they were all really good, and I wish I could, but we'd be here forever, and I don't know if anyone really wants to listen to all of that. But thank you for everyone who did submit questions. Thank you for everyone who subscribed, or who follows me on Patreon, or who follows me on Twitter. If anyone who engages with my work at all, I am so appreciative of it. I'm so grateful. This has been such a surreal, dreamlike experience, and I am so happy that y'all are liking the stuff I do, and I hope that this continues, and I can't wait to see where things go from here. So I guess I'll see you at 50,000, 100,000 in like 5 years from now, whenever that happens again. I don't know what's gonna happen at this point. I could peek here, but yeah, I'll see y'all whenever wherever we go from here. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a lovely day.